But there's something even more insidious happening beneath the crime statistics. This is a crisis of governance. When the state tells you to hide your belongings instead of promising to catch the criminals, they're admitting they've lost control. They're transferring the burden of public safety from the government to the individual. That's not policy. That's abandonment. And the economic consequences are already visible. London's brand as a global destination is built on the idea that it's a safe, vibrant, world-class city. But who sends their child to study in a city where "don't walk alone after dark" is standard freshman orientation advice? Who invests in retail on a high street where customers are too afraid to stop and browse? Who visits a tourist landmark when every photo opportunity comes with the risk of a knife at your throat? The closed storefronts you see on Oxford Street aren't just victims of online shopping. They're casualties of an environment where fear has replaced footfall. International students are reconsidering their choices. Tourists are shortening their stays. Businesses that depend on walk-in customers are shutting down permanently. This is a death spiral, and it's accelerating. But let's be clear about something. This report isn't about spreading panic. It's about asking the questions that need answers. How did organised criminal gangs gain this much operational freedom in a G7 capital? Why are enforcement resources so stretched that response times are collapsing? And why is the official response focused on advice to victims instead of action against perpetrators? Because here's what we know. The gangs are organised, the supply chains are efficient, the profits are massive, and the risks for offenders are currently low enough that the business model works. Until that equation changes, the thefts will continue, the fear will deepen, and the city will keep hardening into something unrecognisable. So now I'm asking you directly, do you feel safer in your city than you did 3 years ago? Have you changed how you move through public space? Do you check over your shoulder more often? Do you hide your phone even when you need it? Drop your answer in the comments. Type your city name and either safer or less safe. Let's build a real map of what's happening across the country, because the mainstream outlets aren't asking these questions. They're too busy reprinting government press releases about falling murder rates while ignoring the explosion in theft, robbery, and intimidation that destroys quality of life. This isn't just London's crisis. This is a warning signal for every major city in the West. When you stop enforcing laws against so-called small crimes, you don't get harmless disorder. You get organised criminal enterprises that fill the vacuum. The broken windows theory isn't theoretical anymore. It's the reality outside your front door. Behind every number in this report is a person. A nurse finishing a night shift, a student walking home, a parent warning their teenager to keep their phone hidden. These aren't abstractions, they're your neighbours, they're you. And the question we all have to answer is this. How much further does this go before we demand something changes? Not just better advice, not just more awareness campaigns, actual enforcement, actual consequences, actual safety, because the criminals are watching too. And every successful theft that goes unpunished sends a signal to the next offender waiting in the shadows. The message is simple. The streets are open for business. The authorities may have stepped back. The politicians may be silent, but you're not. Your voice, your vote, your refusal to accept this as normal, that's what changes the equation. So share this video, tag someone who needs to see it, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if you were in charge? Because the conversation starts here, and it doesn't end until something actually changes. Stay vigilant, stay vocal, and don't let them convince you this is just how things are now. The streets around Westminster filled rapidly. Starmer supporters waved Labour banners, calling this an undemocratic coup. Others celebrated his removal, arguing he destroyed the country. Police established barriers between opposing crowds. The atmosphere grew dangerous. Riot gear appeared. Helicopters circled. Central London went into effective lockdown as authorities feared the political crisis could ignite civil unrest. This is bigger than politics now. This is about whether Britain's democracy can survive its own dysfunction. Scotland and Northern Ireland add another layer of nightmare. Scotland's First Minister immediately called emergency talks, suggesting this proves Scotland needs independence from what she called Westminster's chaos. Northern Ireland's power-sharing government expressed deep alarm. The union itself, already strained by Brexit, now faces renewed existential threats. Social media became a firestorm. Hashtags related to Starmer's removal dominated worldwide trending. Conspiracy theories spread rapidly. Intelligence services orchestrated it, foreign interference caused it. Starmer's own party planned it to escape responsibility. Videos from Parliament went mega viral, viewed millions of times within hours. Public reaction split with surprising violence. Starmer's supporters mobilised protests in major cities demanding reinstatement. Counter-protests formed just as fast. The two sides clashed in several locations, leading to arrests and injuries. Police across England and Scotland reported being stretched dangerously thin as political rage boiled into the streets. Behind closed doors, frantic negotiations search for an exit. Senior MPs from all parties are in emergency talks trying to establish a functioning government before complete collapse. Some propose a temporary national unity government. Others call that illegitimate without an election. The debates are heated, positions are locked, and time is running out. International allies watch with shock and deep concern. Britain is a nuclear power, a UN Security Council permanent member, a key NATO ally, and a major global economy. Its stability matters far beyond its borders. American officials are in constant contact with British counterparts, seeking assurances that command and control structures remain secure. NATO headquarters issued a statement affirming confidence in UK institutional strength. But behind the diplomatic language, serious concerns are being raised. Financial analysts are publishing emergency assessments, and the conclusions are grim. Every day of political chaos costs Britain billions. Investment dries up. International contracts get delayed or cancelled. Some analysts warn that if this isn't resolved within days, Britain could face a full economic catastrophe that makes previous recessions look mild. Starmer hasn't been seen publicly since his removal. Sources say he's meeting with lawyers, exploring every legal avenue to challenge what happened. There are rumours of an emergency court application seeking an injunction to reverse the parliamentary action. Constitutional experts suggest such a case could take months or years, and it's unclear if courts would even intervene in parliamentary matters. Starmer may have been removed from Parliament, but he hasn't surrendered. His next move could either resolve this crisis or detonate it catastrophically. Within Labour, the knives are out. MPs, who harboured long resentment, are now openly briefing against him. They claim he became autocratic, ignored party members, and showed disastrous political instincts. They insist his removal was necessary to save the party. But other Labour MPs remain loyal, calling it betrayal. The internal Labour war is now as significant as the national crisis. The mechanics of how Starmer was actually removed remain murky. Parliamentary sources suggest it involved the Speaker's authority, emergency motions passed in confusion, and rarely used standing orders. But the exact legal basis is disputed. Some MPs claim they never voted for removal. Others say the vote happened so fast in chaos that many didn't understand what they were voting on. There are even suggestions the removal may have been procedurally invalid, which would mean Starmer is still legally Prime Minister even though he's physically barred from the chamber. The constitutional mess gets worse the deeper you look. Public trust in political institutions is cratering. Polling shows massive drops in confidence in Parliament, parties, and government generally. A significant percentage of Britons now say they have no faith in any political leader to resolve this. What's clear is British politics will never be the same. The precedent of forcibly removing a sitting Prime Minister, regardless of justification, has shattered assumptions about how the system works. Future governments will operate knowing this weapon exists. Opposition parties will be tempted to use it when they have the numbers. The stability that comes from predictable rules has been severely damaged, perhaps irreparably. Britain crossed a line today. There's no going back. The international implications extend far beyond economics. Britain's soft power, its reputation as a stable democracy and reliable partner, took a massive hit. Countries considering closer UK ties will now factor in this instability. Rivals will exploit the chaos as evidence of Western decline. Allies will quietly reassess how much they can depend on Britain. For ordinary Britons, this represents a fundamental betrayal of trust. People expect their government to function, to provide stability, to handle problems without descending into chaos. Today, the government failed that test spectacularly. As night falls over Westminster, lights in government buildings burn bright. Officials work through the night trying to stabilise systems and prepare for multiple scenarios. Security remains heightened around Parliament and Downing Street. Protesters remain in the streets, their numbers growing. The atmosphere is tense, uncertain, heavy with the knowledge that Britain is living through a historic moment that will be studied for generations. International media coverage has gone into overdrive. Networks around the world lead with the British crisis. Newspaper front pages in dozens of countries feature images of Starmer's removal. Social media discussions extend far beyond Britain as people globally debate what this means for democracy and Western stability. Britain, the country that once exported parliamentary democracy to much of the world, is now the subject of global concern about democratic backsliding. This crisis raises uncomfortable questions. Starmer's government struggled with severe economic problems, many inherited, some worsened by global conditions. But removing him doesn't solve those problems. The next government will face the same inflation, the same debt, the same struggling businesses and suffering families. Political upheaval doesn't create economic solutions. Britain may have just exchanged one crisis for something far worse. Today wasn't just about one prime minister or one government. It was about the system itself. And that system has been revealed as far more fragile than anyone realised. Britain stands at a crossroads. The decisions made in the coming hours will determine whether the country emerges stronger or descends further into chaos. The world watches, the people wait, and somewhere in London, politicians grapple with the weight of history on their shoulders. What happens next will define Britain for a generation. This is the moment everything changed. This is the day Britain's government collapsed before the nation's eyes, and this is just the beginning. I'll be tracking every development of this crisis as it unfolds. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update. This story is far from over. Drop a comment below. Do you think Starmer can fight his way back, or is this the end of his political career? What do you think happens to Britain next? Let me know your prediction. I'm reading every comment. See you in the next update.